Good news, football lovers. We have the answer to that trivia question I asked you earlier. Remember the trivia question? It reads as follows. Who were the last two Nigerian Super Eagles to win back-to-back CAF Men's Player of the Year awards? And here to answer that question is Auntie Diski. She's back, everybody, back from Marrakech. How are you?
With the bang. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I heard you were away for a while. You must have enjoyed yourself that side.
I did enjoy myself, but it's good to know that you and Brian were holding it down as usual.
As always. Now, can you give the viewers at home the answer to that trivia question? They really want to know who these two Nigerian Super Eagles players are.
Interested to find out what the guesses were, but the correct answers was Kanu in 1996 and Victor Ikpeba in 1997. Did I say Ikpeba correct?
Victor Ikpeba, yeah.
I've been practicing that surname and I was like hoping and crossing fingers that I get it right.
Wow.
But that is the correct answer.
You tried. You did your thing.
Thank you.
Now, let's get into it. We have to honor the women's game. The women's game seems to be just going from strength to strength. We saw that at the CAF Awards. What did you make out of the CAF Awards in general and how they portrayed the women's game?
Oh, a beautiful, prestigious event. And I think it just has growth every single year. And I think to be invited as a guest on its own, you know, I mean, it speaks volumes, but also just to give recognition and celebrate, you know, the people that have basically given back to the football spaces. And, you know, we always talk about elevating the women's game, and it's always a refresher to see some of these prominent stars being celebrated and some of their, you know, best moments being highlighted at such a magnitude. You know, seeing the FIFA president there to award some of these awards really speaks volumes. And for me, let me just talk about some highlights or some awards that really stood out for me.
Oh, you have those for us? Let's
I definitely do. And the first one, I want to speak about Barbra Banda. And I know somebody's going to be like, we speak about Barbra Banda all the time, but why not? You know, if she's a very phenomenal player, has done exceptionally well in the international space, and she walked away with Player of the Year award, which we saw last year was won by Ashwala. And I think this speaks volumes, and it talks about her performance throughout the year, not just for African football, but in the international space. We spoke about her, you know, 2 weeks back when she won the BBC award. We've seen what she's done. She's broken records at the Olympics, and she is the first African player who's been nominated for the FIFPro Global Best 11, as well as the CAF FIFPro. So I think this is really the biggest highlight for me at that night, because it gives back, you know, and Zambia, you know, was super proud of her and the amount of work that she's done. The whole continent was. And I think also for her, Barbra has had a lot of frustration when it comes, you know, to the international audience, you know, when it comes, I mean, even with the award for the BBC, you know, there was a lot of questioning that happened. We've seen her having to miss out certain big tournaments because people are questioning certain things about her gender and whatnot. But I think this basically just speaks volumes for her, and it's, I think and I believe it's basically a big highlight for her in her career. So I'm super proud of her.
So let's go to the other awards on the night. We saw Chiamaka Nadozie win.
I was going there.
You know, the Goalkeeper of the Year award.
For the second time.
Yes, but she didn't make it to...
I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to do that.
You know, I mean, Brian and I were talking about this earlier, about just the inconsistencies at times in these lists.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you agree with that decision?
100%. I agree with Brian. I mean, you know, what is the criteria? Because you can question a whole lot of things to say, how does the best goalkeeper in Africa, who got the award the first time and gets it the second time, doesn't make it to the best 11, you know? There's a lot of, you know, talks about that. Does she carry a lot of weight because she plays in an international space, or does she not? You know, there's a lot of questions there, but I think she's done phenomenally well. I think also she has basically cemented herself so perfectly in the international space, and I think she definitely does deserve. I mean, Paris FC is a very big team, and we've seen how well she's done in that team. She's super deserving, but I would definitely love to have seen her in that, you know, starting 11. Not to take anything away from Andi Ledlamini, because I think she also deserves it, but I also do agree with Brian to say that how are we really ranking these achievements? And another player to speak about when it comes to these awards is Temwa, Chawinga. We've been speaking about her throughout and what she's doing at Kansas City. She's broken records, and she's not part of the award. She didn't walk away with even the best 11. So you're just trying to ask yourself, how do they actually come to choose who is going to be the best? But I mean, big ups to the ones that have been selected.
So let's talk about TP Mazembe. Now, they impressed me in the 4th edition of the CAF Women's Champions League that was held for the 2nd time in Morocco. TP Mazembe as a team, what makes them special?
I think what makes them special is I want to reference them as a name that belongs to one of the Mamelodi Sundowns players, Kalusha Bwalya. She calls herself the Fox because nobody saw them coming. And that's exactly what I think it is for TP Mazembe. When we have these conversations about women's football and achievements and winning, TP Mazembe is not usually a name that gets up there in terms of winning tournaments up until the end. So I think this was a really great moment for them, and not to just win one award, too. The coach walking away with Coach of the Year and them winning the Interclub Award. I think it's one of those teams that you don't really see coming, but the new guys are really the business when it comes to women's football. And we've seen with, what Zambia is doing in the COSAFA space as well, from the under 17s to under 20s all the way to the senior team. So I think TP Mazembe is definitely they're doing their homework, they're doing their analysis and their research correct in order for them to say, we have arrived and we are going to stay here.
So what about the national team of the year? It went to the Falcons of Nigeria.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? I mean, there's so many other good teams that are out there.
Yeah.
The Falcons of Nigeria.
I definitely do agree. Let's look at their ranking, globally and also in Africa. They are ranked first in Africa. So I think they're doing exceptionally well. They are a team that's always giving all the other nations a run for their money. We've seen what they can do, at WAFCON spaces. We've seen prominent players, who are doing exceptionally well in the international space. And I stand to be corrected, but I believe that Nigeria does have more players in their clubs playing on an international space than everybody else does when it comes to African, or continental football. So I think that plays a huge role in the consistency that they are giving. And I definitely think they deserve it as well. And they're just basically saying, we are here. If you want this, you must basically do as best as we are doing.
Thank you so much, Auntie Diski. Always an honor to have you here. Just glad that a new chapter has been written in the women's football game. And I want to see more written.